Good morning. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2026, and we are on record with the Grant County Board of Equalization, and we will be hearing petition number 2025-168 for parcel number 41984-150560003, represented by Hobland LLC, Live National Entertainment, Baker Tilly Advisory Group, who is not in attendance. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance. Please silence your cell phones and note these hearings are being recorded and will be posted to YouTube once the order has been issued. Mr. Chair, the board is convened and the hearing is open.
The hearing today is regarding the true and fair value set by the Grant County Assessor's Office. Reminder, this relates to the assessed value of your property, not your property taxes. Board of Equalization is independent of the Assessor's Office. We are 3 citizens appointed by the Grant County Commissioners and trained by the Department of Revenue. Today's board is comprised of myself, Jim Breakville as chair, Jerry Gingrich as vice chair, and Marge Stamets as a member. We've reviewed all evidence presented by both parties. This hearing is only to provide any additional oral testimony. No new evidence may be submitted at this time. Remember, everyone's time is valuable. Please try to keep to the timelines. Please address the board only. Since there's no appellant, does the assessor's representative swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
And at that, go ahead.
All right. So the subject is a 2,233 space campground on a 45.56 acre lot in Quincy rural. On page 4, you'll see the appellant states that this subject was the subject sale was part of a bulk portfolio transaction. However, this subject was not market adjusted based on any of those sales. The subject has not been a part of the sale since 2014. It's solely based on the cost approach, and you can find the cost approach information on page 5 there. And with that, we are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $114,144. Building and structures, $1,038,191, for a total assessed value of $1,152,335.
Questions?
I have no questions.
Mark?
No.
Okay. This concludes the Grant County Board of Equalization hearing. The board will review all the information provided, and board orders stating their decision will be issued within 45 days. If either party disagrees with the board's decision, they may appeal to the Washington State Board of Tax Appeals within 30 days of the mailing of the board order. Morning today is Thursday, April 9th, 2026, and we are on record with the Grant County Board of Equalization. We'll be hearing petition number 2025-169 for parcel number 73451-314418000, represented by Vineyard Development Company, LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance. Please silence your cell phones and note these hearings are being recorded and will be posted to YouTube once the order has been issued. Mr. Chair, the board is convened and the hearing is open.
The hearing today is regarding the true and fair value set by the Grant County Assessor's Office. Reminder, this relates to the assessed value of your property, not your property taxes. The Board of Equalization is independent of the Assessor's Office. We are 3 citizens appointed by the Grant County Commissioners and trained by the Department of Revenue. Today's board is comprised of myself, Jim Breakville as chair, Jerry Gingrich as vice chair, and Rosa Decker as a member. We have reviewed all evidence presented by both parties. This hearing is only to provide any additional oral testimony. No new evidence may be submitted at this time. Remember, everyone's time is valuable. Please try to keep to the timelines. Please address the board only. Do both the appellant and the assessor's representative swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The appellant will go first and present any testimony, then be followed by the appraiser. I do have a question. Are the arguments for all of the vineyard development going to be the same?
Hi, Ryland here. There are about 4 different kind of philosophies that I'm presenting, depending on which vineyard parcels we're talking about. 169 and 170 right off the bat have very similar documentation and arguments in that they were leftover parcels after we platted the high value residential properties, and the shape, as my documentation provided, the shape and topography involved provides, in my view, zero marketable value going forward. And so that was my basic position for 169 and 170.
So then we'll proceed with 169 then.
Okay.
You're up.
I didn't have any additional information to provide other than in my appeal, just to make sure you guys got the supporting documents behind the appeal that showed the shape of the documents as well as the topo maps that I provided. And that would be, I have nothing additional to add at this time.
Okay. Clayton, you're up.
All right, so let's see here. The subject is a 3.89 acre vacant recreational development zone lot. Following sales on page 4 were sales of vacant land in the subject neighborhood. These sales were not used to set the land rates, as the land rates were set before these sales. However, sales shown support the current value. The subject is currently valued at 46 cents per square foot. As the appellant stated, that this land has no value due to the maximum entitled capacity of 40 homes already being plat. However, nothing has been provided showing that to be true, and adjustments can only be made once that is shown to be true. With that, we're asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at $77,860 for the land, 0 for building and structures, for a total assessed value of $77,860.
Can you rebuttal, Ms. Halfing?
Yes, I'm working on a laptop, but I think the assessor uses prime rectangular buildable lots as a comp. And I think, if I recall, the comp that he used predominantly in these appeals was something like $15 a square foot, and he reduces it down to 46 cents. Arbitrarily, it's sort of like comparing an 18-wheeler to a Ford pickup truck. They both have tires, they both have wheels, they go down the road, but he hasn't provided any comps for steeply sloping land that's unbuildable. This is part of a master plan neighborhood. We extracted the buildable land out of that. What's left is going to be tracts that's going to be deeded over to the HOA for long-term runoff and just general fire control maintenance. And thus no willing buyer would pay $77,000 or really $1 for this land if you look at the topos and the shape of it in my documentation.
Okay.
I have nothing further.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead and close it.
You want to close or just roll into the next one?
We'll roll to the next one, I guess.
The next petition that we'll be hearing is petition number 2025-170 for parcel number 73452-314419000, represented by Vineyard Development Company, LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom, and the assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Keep in mind you're still under oath. Go ahead.
Very similar to the prior conversation. These are residual parcels left after we subdivided the buildable areas and the sellable areas. What's left in my document, what's left of these parcels shows the very steep slopes that's uneconomic to build on and not usable for any other use. Same conversation we had previously. And to get a sense of the topos, you can even see in my supporting documentation, we had to do like a switchback on the road to even make it drivable. And this parcel kind of wraps around those switchback roads. That gives you a sense of just how steep it is. Odd shapes. And it's in an HOA and will be used for HOA. Will be deeded over to the HOA for long-term maintenance once the community is fully built out. I believe it has, thus I believe it has zero marketable value going forward.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Go ahead.
So this one's the same, as the appellant stated, this is the same response as the previous petition. With that, we are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, 92,280, building and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of 92,280.
Any other rebuttal?
Nope.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
In both 169 and 170, you've stated that civil plans show that it's unbuildable, and you've said that several times. Was any of that documentation ever given to the assessor? I mean, was there any discussion saying this is, showing this is unbuildable?
No, I was fighting the timeline for appeal. So to the assessor's credit, they didn't have that information initially, probably. And I don't think the assessor's maps and whatnot I don't think they're able to look at topo. I don't know that for a fact, actually. So this is probably new information to the assessor, I would think. So I guess the answer is no to your question.
Okay, and I'd recommend, at any time, even after the deadline, if you get a chance to talk to the assessor, they can't necessarily make adjustments, but at least the knowledge is there. I don't want to speak for the assessor's office.
Absolutely. The more information for us, the better. And that's
Yeah.
what I would have been looking for. I did reach out to the appellant. We had conversations via email, letting them know that I would need this information in order to make adjustments, because we do need something to show us really what I was looking for as well, because it seemed like one of the main arguments was that these were left over, and that they wouldn't be able to be sold because the maximum amount of plots had been reached. And something showing that would have been able to, may have been something we would have been able to use for an adjustment for that. So yes, really anything that would have been able to be provided could have possibly led to an adjustment.
I apologize for that miscommunication on my part.
That's why we're all here.
You guys do this regularly. I'm a newbie to it.
Okay. We'll be moving to petition number 2025-171 for parcel number 73449-314416000, represented by Vineyard Development Company LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. And the assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Assuming it's my turn. Similar in that it has no market value, but in this instance, this is a parcel at the lowest point elevation-wise of the project. It's used as a storm pond track, so it controls water runoff coming off of the site. Some of the supporting documentation shows kind of a shape of a pond, storm pond, and as such, it's necessary to have a built out project. You got to have a place for this water to go, and it has no market value because nobody's willing to buy a piece of land that's potentially going to get flooded at any given snow melt or rainwater runoff.
Okay, anything else?
Nothing here.
So for this particular parcel, we did make an adjustment on this one. As you can see on the map, this one is very apparent that there is a storm pond there. The information the appellant provided matches what we have and what you can see on our maps here. And therefore, we did make an adjustment based on that storm pond and the lot being undevelopable. There's still a value on there because we need to have some value on there. It's just got an adjustment for the unbuildable lots. So with that, we are asking the board to adjust the current assessed value to land 44,600, building and structures 0, for a total assessed value of 44,600.
Any rebuttal?
I don't quite understand that, but that's why we're here, and that's okay. I will also note on the supporting documentation, the southeastern portion that's a little bit outside the pond is impacted by a well, which makes it unbuildable for other purposes. And you can see on page, just for additional information, where is that on my documentation? I think it showed that there's a circular shape on page 6 of 10 of my submission to show that restricted area, wellhead, domestic reservoir, well protection covenant, blah, 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 for the board's consideration.
Any questions?
I don't have anything.
Okay. 172.
The next petition we'll be hearing is petition number 2025-172 for a parcel number 73453-3144200000, represented by Vineyard Development Company LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Hello.
Go ahead.
This is a commercial building. What we're building, we've built several, a couple of resort-based communities in the Crescent Bar area over the last couple decades. My company has, the company I work for, and as part of that project, we generally have to have some amenities and some level of service as a selling tool to sell the homes. And so, when people are buying these primarily for second homes, they need to have a vision of a relaxing resort area. And one of those things is they get there and they don't necessarily want to cook their own dinner. So we put this commercial building up. In and of themselves, the commercial buildings are basically lost leaders for us. But it allows, or it facilitates, the sale of the individual homes. In my documentation, I've provided the economics of the building, which is how traditional commercial buildings are valued. It's all based on what an investor is willing to pay, and that is based on what the potential revenue is and potential expenses are for the building. So I've provided that based on a lease, including a supporting lease to a local winery that ran it last year and a half. And they were motivated to rent the space because they can get their name out there for their wine business. And so that's the lease and the economics that I provided there, put a capitalization rate on it, and arrived at a very nominal value for the property. So that's the story that I put there. I think I did provide this to the assessor during the conversation period before this appeal. They did look at those numbers and reduced their value somewhat. They were asking for 3 years of data, if I recall. I don't have 3 years of data because it's a new building, so I've provided what I have, basically.
Okay, is that all?
For me, yes.
All right, go ahead.
So with this one, during a review of the BOE petition, it was found that the improvements on this parcel received a market adjustment that was based on the residences in the subject neighborhood. As you can see, this is a commercial building, so it shouldn't be adjusted the same as the residences. It doesn't have the same market. So that adjustment has been removed. And the new recommended value reflects that non-market adjusted value. To touch base on the income portion of this, we do require 3 years of income. Appellant did provide the income in their petition. However, we do need that 3 years to get more in-depth into that income and get a better idea. The changes in the income from year to year could be significant, could be none at all. So we do need those 3 years just per our policies. Therefore, we are asking the board to adjust the current assessed value to land 15,100, building and structures 1,158,368, for a total assessed value of 1,173,468.
Question for Clayton. I have a question for Mr. Johnson here. On that 3 years, is that an internal policy to the assessor's office, or is that a Department of Revenue requirement?
I believe that's a Department of Revenue requirement. I know it's for sure a policy within our office, but I do believe that is a guidance from Department of Revenue.
Any rebuttal?
Only to note that, like I noted, this is a seasonal resort area. And if you look at the pro forma, monthly rental at $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year, the business really has to make its money in about a 12-week window. And if you start doing the math on that and its cost of occupancy, I don't think this is ever going to rise to a multi-six-figure income analysis, but I recognize that everybody has their constraints as to what they're allowed to do, I guess.
Okay, any rebuttal?
So I would like to touch base on the income, kind of maybe a little bit of an explanation on the 3 years. If you think of it as, that building may have generated that much income this year, but what if that tenant were to leave next year and then it doesn't have that income? That would affect it. Or, there's another tenant moves in and they raise the rent. Those are the reasons why the 3 years is necessary, because like I said before, that income can change positively, but it can also change negatively. You see a building where the tenant moves out and then, there's more vacancy that year. That can affect it negatively. So that I just wanted to, touch base on that, as far as the income goes, reasoning why for that. As the appellant was mentioning, that there is somebody in there who's willing to be in there because they are able to promote their business by being in there. Maybe they find their business no longer able to be in that building, and then they leave. Then that building is vacant, and then the income is less. That needs to be factored in as well. So, but other than that, I have nothing else.
Any rebuttal? Okay. Go ahead.
The next petition is petition number 2025-174 for parcel number 73450-314417000, represented by Vineyard Development Company, LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Go ahead, Mr. Hoffman.
Hello. Yeah, kind of similar to but even more so, similar to the restaurant argument. We, as part of this resort, we try to, we build amenities. We have, this parcel was a large pool, fitness center, bathrooms was built on this parcel to attract buyers of the homes. We spent a lot of money on it, and we hope that raises the value of the homes by more than what we spent on the amenities. But as a standalone property, it has zero value because it's part of the HOA. It's an amenity used by the HOA, maintained by the HOA. And when the community gets built out a little more, we will deed it over to them, similar to those other cutoff tracks, as we walk out the door. But by itself, it has no value. but the value, there is value to this, but it accrues to the homes. So when the assessor sees those homes selling, those homes should be selling for, hopefully 50 grand more because of this pool. So it's embedded in those home values. So that's the nature of amenities. I know, I don't think you're allowed to consider that, but this is a similar argument that you see in other resort communities in the area. All the value of those amenities accrues to the homes. So that's my economic argument that I'm here to present today, and ask for relief on the value and put a zero value on it.
So this one, like the previous one, also received that market adjustment based on sales of the residences that were not comparable. So that adjustment has been removed, and the new recommended value reflects that. The appellant mentioned that it will be deeded over to the HOA. And like other communities, I believe the appellant stated in here, yes, that, adjacent communities have this, at zero value. The difference there would be the fact of it being written into the leases, or the HOAs being the ownership of that. So I can't say for sure what that will entail once it is deeded over to the HOA, but as of right now, the buildings are there and they are owned by the subject property. Therefore, we are asking the board to adjust the current assessed value to land 62,000, building and structures 729,329, for a total assessed value of 791,329.
And to sort of balance that comment, we have had a conversation about another pool we're going to talk about here in a minute. And I don't understand how the ownership affects marketability. I don't know anyone in this room who would buy a pool if we were to market it. And I don't believe we should have to put it up for sale to prove zero, because it's hard to prove a negative.
So should I?
Go ahead.
So with that, I would say that, we have to value everything on a replacement cost, a market adjusted replacement cost. So that pool has a replacement cost value. So as long as that pool is there, and in this one, there's a building too, I believe, as long as those structures are on the site and they're owned by the who owns the site, they have to be valued just based on the way Washington State values properties. Therefore, they're
So yeah,
zero value on a structure that is there unless the ownership of that structure is not the ownership of the land.
yeah. See, and I guess that's why we're here. Is you've got your constraints. You have to do replacement costs. You just said, I think, and yet economically, to us, it has zero value, and so that's where the Board of Equalization needs to come in here. If we allow the replacement cost to be valued here, and the assessor values the homes, that's basically you're assessing the same value twice at some level. And so, that's just me thinking it out loud. My apologies.
Okay,
Absolutely.
anything else, Gary?
That's it for me.
I have no questions.
Okay.
The next petition is petition number 2025-175 for parcel number 73454-31442100, represented by Vineyard Development Company LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Yeah, the provided information shows the parcel, and the map shows that a lot of little rectangular boxes, those are individual parking stalls, parking garages that we're selling for people to store boats, motorhomes, that kind of thing in. And this parcel, assumes the driveway. The big space between those buildings is drive alleys that are necessary to get the value of the garages. So if the garages are valued independently, you need the alley to get the value of the garages. And so it's kind of a form of double taxation here. So that's why the appeal.
Go ahead, Clayton. Unless, do you have anything else?
Nothing for me.
All right.
So on page 4 of my response, you'll see the sales of vacant land in that neighborhood. These sales were not used to set the land rates, however, they support the value that is on there. The appellant states that this land has no value due to being driveway access for private garage complex, and it compares to private roads. However, nothing is provided showing the land is not marketable. Adjustments can only be made if something is supplied showing that. Therefore, we are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $308,460, building and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of $308,460.
Any rebuttal?
Nothing to rebut.
Great. No. Okay.
Next, we'll be moving to petition number 2025-177 for parcel number 39837-141347101, represented by Riverview at Crescent Bar LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. And the assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Similar to the other commercial building, I just provided a pro forma here. We had the assessor and us had agreed on a lower value a year ago, got a reduced value, and then in the new reassessment year, they increased it back. It went from like 1.1 million down to 600,000 and change. And then in the new assessment that came out, it was revalued at 1.1, and we subsequently provided. He was asking for one more additional year of rents. That's included here in my appeal. And so, and the value, and I recalculated it. And so my value goes up to 679,000. And a big part of that was because of assuming the lower property taxes from the year prior, increase the net value. So, that's all I have.
Okay.
So this one, like the appellant stated, that this previously was valued on the income approach. I will say that I believe I reached out in order to get the newest income and expense information. However, I did not believe that I received that. I do see on here that there is some information here. And I'm not showing it if this is the year. This is 2025.
Yeah, that was 2025 performance there.
Okay, so I believe, and I would have to check my emails to see, but I believe I would have been asking for 2024's income because it goes 3 years back. The assessment year was 2025. So the income that was generated in 2025 would have been past the assessment date of 1/1 of 2025. So I think there may have been just some confusion as to what years were needed here.
When we reduced it previously, I'd provided like 21, 22, and 23 maybe. Or
Correct.
22, 23, 24 maybe.
It would have been 21, 22, and 23. And this year we would have needed 22, 23, and 24. Is what we would have needed. Now, I don't want to misspeak and say what I had put in the email, but that would be something that with that information, we could look at this again. And it was provided last year. However, I do believe it was somebody else that I had dealt with last year. So with that, We are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, 38,000, building and structures, 1,140,750, for a total assessed value of 1,178,750.
And I would, obviously my request is for a value of 679,000, which is about, from memory, about 70,000 higher than the assessor agreed to a year ago. The building's, it doesn't jump from 600,000 to 1.1 by magic. It's a fully leased building. We've got multiple years of history. The assessor agreed on it at one point, and I think we just maybe a little communication mishap. So
I'd just like to say for the record, on behalf of everyone, that the board BOE orders or assessor agreements are only valid for 1 year. It doesn't carry over. And it's not necessarily evidence. It is just a one-time, that's how the board rules, so.
adjustment, yeah, got it.
I just have one question for you. Did you try to reach out to the appellant to let them know that you received the incorrect year for income, or is that?
Yes, I had been in email communications with the appellant. Again, I don't want to misspeak on if I put the wrong year in there. The years that were necessary were the 22, 23, and 24. I believe that's what I put. Typically, when I see somebody send in the 25, then I'll see that and say, hey, we actually need the correct years. So there was communication. Whether there was some miscommunication there, it seems to be the question of what years were requested. I would have to go back through. I didn't print out those emails, but I would have to go back through and look for sure.
Any other rebuttals, sir? Okay.
No.
Can we take a 5-minute? We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
So, I'm gonna close this out real quick. This concludes these Grant County Board of Equalization hearings. The board will review all the information provided, and board orders stating their decisions will be issued within 45 days. If either party disagrees with the board's decision, they may appeal to the Washington State Board of Tax Appeals within 30 days of the mailing of the board order. When do you want to come back?
Let's come back at, I don't know, 12 after. Give
Okay.
us 6 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be back online at
All right.
12 after. Good morning. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2026. We're on record with the Grant County Board of Equalization. We'll be hearing petition number 2025-178 for parcel number 110774-314971000, represented by Crescent Ridge Ranch Development Co. LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance. Please silence your cell phones and note these hearings are being recorded and will be posted to YouTube once the order has been issued. Mr. Chair, the board is convened and the hearing is open.
And for the record, the hearing today is regarding the true and fair value set by the Grant County Assessor's Office. Reminder, this relates to the assessed value of your property, not your property taxes. The Board of Equalization is independent of the Assessor's Office. We are 3 citizens appointed by the Grant County Commissioners and trained by the Department of Revenue. Today's board is comprised of myself, Jim Breakville, as chair, Jerry Gingrich as vice chair, and Rosa Decker as member. We reviewed all evidence presented by both parties. This hearing is only to provide any additional oral testimony. No new evidence may be submitted at this time. Remember, everyone's time is valuable. Please try to keep to the timelines. Please address the board only. Do both the appellant and the assessor's representative swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
The appellant will go first and present any testimony that will be followed by the appraiser. Go ahead.
Hi. So this is, as you can see on the visual here, this is a pasture surrounded by home lots, and the pasture is impacted severely by septic drain fields, which serve the surrounding homes as well as off-property proposed development. and as such that impairs the value from any marketable use. Similarly, I believe the assessor used some of these lots here on the left as a comparable, and then adjusted that comparable dramatically to reduce the value. But I don't think that's the adjustment's so large. I don't think it's a reasonable comparison. So that, and essentially these tracts will be owned and maintained by the HOA once we finish building out the community. And so it's basically a visual amenity to the HOA impacted by septic systems, and should be valued at zero. That's all.
Anything else?
Nothing here.
Clayton?
Okay, so on page 4, you'll see the sales. These following sales are of vacant land in the subject neighborhood. They were not used to set the land rates. However, the sales shown support the current value, and the subject is currently valued at $1.23 per square foot. We are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $517,254, building and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of $517,254.
Questions?
We'll see if he has a rebuttal.
Or do you want any rebuttal at all?
No.
No questions.
No questions.
Rosa?
No.
The next petition is petition number 2025-179 for parcel number 39711-141285886, represented by Crescent Ridge Ranch Development Co. LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. Assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Hello. Exactly similar topic to the prior parcel. This is a pasture being used for septic drain fields. It's going to be a visual amenity for the HOA, be deeded over to them for maintenance. The property is impacted severely by it's being used for septic systems, has no marketable value. That's it.
Okay.
So this one, same sales on page 4. This subject is currently valued at $1.15 per square foot. Therefore, we're asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $301,000, building and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of $301,000 even.
Any rebuttal, sir?
No rebuttal.
Questions?
No.
Okay.
Next petition is petition number 2025-180 for parcel number 110776-314973000, represented by Crescent Ridge Ranch Development Co. LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
The supporting materials show the topography of this property. It's at the base of I think they call it a talus slope. It's at the base of some cliffs, very steep, poor soils to build on. That's why we didn't create lots out of it. I should have 0 value. Oh, and it will be deeded over to the HOA as we exit the property once fully developed.
Okay. Go ahead.
Once again, page 4 illustrates the sales used in that neighborhood, or of vacant land in that neighborhood, rather. And the subject is currently valued at $1.22 per square foot. Therefore, we're asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $110,232, buildings and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of $110,232.
I would like to rebut, I guess. Again, we're not allowed to use neighboring properties, but I feel like compelled to say it. The property immediately to the east of this, the assessor uses a value of 1.5 pennies per square foot. This one, he's using a value of $1 a square foot and adjusting comps down from $15 a square foot. These aren't comparables. There's no market value for this land.
Okay. Any rebuttal?
I am not able to speak on that because I'm not sure of the neighboring properties that are in question here. I would have to look and see what they are. Again, we're not looking at other properties here, just this particular property.
Okay. Question? No. Okay.
Next petition is petition number 2025-181 for parcel number 110777-314974000, represented by Crescent Ridge Ranch Development Co. LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's the property adjacent, right next to the one we just talked about. Steep slopes, bottom of a cliff with, where the cliff has over generations fallen down, weak soils, too steep to build on. It's a tract that it was platted as a tract to be deeded over to the HOA as we exit the community. And so I put 0 marketable value on it.
Okay, and again, page 4, same sales on this one. The subject's currently valued at $1.22 per square foot. Therefore, we are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $172,237, building and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of $172,237.
Any
No
rebuttal?
rebuttal? No.
No? Okay.
I do have something, and it's more of a comment. I would encourage you to reach out, if nothing else, to development services with the county. I've heard several times the statement, it's a not buildable parcel. They could go out and in hand in hand, I'm assuming, I'm not into the details, I don't want to say doing their job, but they're the ones ultimately could determine if it's buildable, not buildable. And you could get a letter from them. We've seen them before. So I'm not telling you how to do it, just saying I recommend that you at least talk to them and continue to speak with the assessor also.
And I mean, we do also have a profit motive as a private enterprise rather than calling in third parties like that, although I will take that suggestion to heart.
Understand.
Yeah.
Any further?
Oh, from me, no.
Rosa? Anything else? No. Okay.
Next petition is petition number 2025-182 for parcel number 42111-150637008, represented by Crescent Ridge Ranch Development Co. LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
Very similar theme. You'll see in my supporting documents the topography involved in this property. Extreme slopes on most of it. There is a sort of a flattish pad of about 4 acres I identified in my supporting documents that we hope someday to develop. It's extremely expensive to get a road in there, which destroys the end value. It hasn't penciled to date. We've been actively developing in the neighborhood adjacent we were just talking about for a decade to sell through. And so there's a time value money element that needs to be considered here. So, you can throw some value, some placeholder value that maybe someday it'll be economic. But it also may not be economic ever. So I don't know what to do with that. I said 10,000 an acre times the potential 4 buildable acres we think we might be able to build, but no 1-to-1 slopes is unbuildable on it, and uneconomic to develop. So that's why we haven't to date.
So on this particular parcel, we do currently have 35.68 acres of this valued as wasteland due to the topography there. We are asking the board to sustain the current assessed value at land, $609,284, building and structures, 0, for a total assessed value of $609,284.
Nothing to rebut.
Question? Okay.
The last petition is petition number 2025-183 for parcel number 39713-141285888, represented by Crescent Ridge Ranch Development Co. LLC, Ryland Hoffman, who is in attendance via Zoom. The assessor's office is represented by Clayton Johnson, who is in attendance.
All right, we got to the end of our stack, or my stack anyway. I appreciate your time today. This is for a pool parcel in the neighboring community. Identical, same logic argument to the prior pool. It's a tract. We put a pool and you got to put a bathroom in as a result, and an equipment room for the pool and spa. It's an HOA amenity. The HOA members are paying for it. We, on our way out the door, once the community is fully built out, we will deed the tract over to them. This is a loss leader expense, same way as putting in roads. We don't make any money on roads. We don't make any money on the pools, but it makes the homes sell, and makes the homes sell for more than they would otherwise. And so, but it has no independent market value. There is no comparable sales for pools provided by the assessor. It's just, so it should have a 0 value for those reasons I've stated.
Anything else?
Nothing for me.
So on this particular parcel, page 4 again is the sales of the land. However, on this particular one, the pole is not valued on this parcel. I believe that would have to do with the difference in this being Crescent Ridge and the other ones being the vineyard development. To the best of my knowledge, it would be because this pole has been, an appellant could probably verify that this pole has been deeded over to the of Crescent Ridge.
If it says it, it might have been. So
I do 0 value for the pole on this one, so it's only the land we're valuing. Therefore, with that, we ask the board to sustain the current assessed value at land 308,000, building and structures 0, for a total assessed value of 308,000.
And to rebut, I don't know why the land would carry any value. You might have to do it that way for an assessment perspective, but from an economic perspective, it has no value. Imagine getting the HOA members to agree to demolish the pool and sell the land off. It's an impossibility. You don't see pools sold in the marketplace ever. All the value accrues to the homes, and if you put some value on this land as well as the homes, as well as a form of double taxation, and I don't think that's the intent of the assessment process.
I do have a question. No, go ahead.
Well, my question was, you made the statement, homeowners association members are paying for the pool, the implication. How? Is it in their deed saying this percentage is being paid to the pool? Is it, I mean, how is that being, because everything has value. And you're saying they're paying for it in their dues? I mean, and I'm just trying to understand that.
Yeah. So, and I believe on this one, we deeded ownership of the tract and the property and the improvements on the tract to the HOA, I think is how we did that. I believe that's where it sits today. And the members pay into an HOA community association, which owns this property. And they pay for the maintenance. They set aside reserves for it, along with their other HOA stuff like snow plowing and mowing the pastures and that kind of thing.
Okay.
My question is, you've got the sales valued at an average of $16.43. And you're valuing the subject as $17.25 per square foot. Can you tell me what the difference is?
Yes, these sales were not used to set the land rates. We don't have anything current to show that the land rate is not supported, rather the same as it being supported. These are just illustrating what as you see here, one of the land sales is at $19.49. So it is supported by one of the sales. The average does not support. However, there is a supporting land sale, but however, these weren't used to develop those. These land rates haven't been adjusted in quite some time, considering this being 2020, the oldest sale here.
Right.
So that is you are correct that the subject is currently valued higher than those land sales. However, with that one land sale in there being higher, it is supported by that one.
Anything else?
This concludes the Grant County Board of Equalization hearings. The board will review all the information provided, and board orders stating their decision will be issued within 45 days. If either party disagrees with the board's decision, they may appeal to the Washington State Board of Tax Appeals within 30 days of the mailing of the board order.